the second event of the season in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Sprint Cup, we're at Zandvoort, we're at the seaside, and we're at an old school circuit with a few modern touches. It's a 27-strong entry and 2 cracking races in prospect, just as we had at Magny-Cours for the first round of the championship. The first race beginning in the dark, Charles Weert on pole position, and plenty of drama over the opening laps, including a big spin from the Mercedes in the hands of Konstantin Terashenko. The Tempesta Sky Ferrari was on its toes, trying to wriggle its way up through the order as the pit window opened. And there was the usual shuffling of places as the teams busily got to work. It was Lamborghini versus Audi in the pits, but a real star on the track in the second stint was Rafaeli Martiello, threading his way through the traffic, curb and all, in the ACA ASP Mercedes. There was a good battle going on for third and fourth places. Alex Fontana's Lamborghini just ahead of the Lukas Stolz Mauro Engel Mercedes. Martiello up to 6th place as he dived down to the end of the lap. That put him ahead of Mathieu Drudi in the Audi, as up front Charles Weert and Dries Van Voor headed for a maiden victory of the season in the Sprint Cup. Checkered flag flew and it was first blood to the WRT run Audi. Daylight for race 2, Mauro Engel on pole position. He led away from Albert Costa, and then the Jota-run McLaren of Ben Barnicoat. There was drama on the opening lap, however. Jules Gounod the casualty as his ACA ASP Mercedes ran out wide through the gravel and lost a whole heap of places. Before long, Ben Barnicoat was up to 2nd at the expense of Albert Costa. He had a tyre going down and lost the car. Around he went as up and past him came Dries Van Voor. And then further drama off the road, the WRT Audi of Benjamin Goethe. Full course yellow followed, that was soon a safety car. And on the pit stops, up into 2nd place, jumped Timur Boguslavski, taking over from Martiello. On the restart, it was the number 6 Mercedes that led away. Stolz and Engel leading the race as into the gravel plunged Jules Gounod and Nikolai Kiergaard. Charles Weert threw on the inside to gain a place, but he copped a penalty for that, and the place had to be reversed post-race. To the checkered flag and a race win, the Mercedes of Lukas Stolz and Mauro Engel, victorious at Magny-Cours. Dries Van Voor and Charles Weert come here as championship leaders after their results at Magny-Cours. Van Voor looking forward to 2 races here and revelling in an old school circuit.
It's an old school track, and you know, a small mistake can have a big impact on the weekend, so it's back to old school. That's what we all like as a racing driver. It's a sprint race, so it's from lap 1 until your box. It's giving everything you have. We're leading the championship, so we have to be smart. I mean, we have to take points home, so that will be an eventful weekend.
It was a mixed weekend for Mauro Engel and Lukas Stolz at Magny-Cours. They had a win, but only classified 25th in the first race. Mauro Engel knows they've got to score points here.
I think we have a really strong car with the Mercedes-AMG GT3, and you know, it showed that. So yeah, hopefully we can just continue on that way this weekend. I mean, ideally for us, we would love to start at the front and try and have a race like we had in race 2 in Magny-Cours. It's an important weekend for points, obviously, in this championship. Usually it's a track we perform well at, so looking forward to hopefully a strong weekend.
Rafaeli Martiello, sporting green hair for the weekend, lies 3rd in the standings. He's another driver looking forward to this old school track.
Yeah, it's quite nice to come here. Now it's a bit difficult because it's like 2 tracks in 1 track, because half of the track is with the new asphalt, half is with the other. We are quite quick. Our mechanics, they do a great job in pit stop. All the package looks quite strong. We are here to win, so we have to try to win.
Against Audi and Mercedes comes Porsche. Dynamic Motorsport has a solo entry. Christian Engelhardt shares driving duties with Adrian Delina. After a tough time at Magny-Cours, the aim here is points.
We've been working on finding a good setup. We had a good test in Magny-Cours, and we felt that we had a good baseline. Unfortunately, on the race weekend, we found ourselves quite out of the pace. So far in Zandvoort, we feel much more confident. So I think we're within, you know, a good range to be competitive and get some points.
Don't ignore the battles that rage on in this championship in the Silver Cup or in Pro-Am. Championship leaders in Pro-Am after Magny-Cours, Andrea Bertolini and Louis Machiels.
We are first in class now, so we will fight for the championship. Global, it would be nice if we can win again the championship, because I became 50 this year. It's 10 years that I'm doing racing with this organization, so that would be a dream for me.
Barwell Motorsport has added a Sprint Cup programme to its very successful Endurance Cup pedigree for 2021. A single entry, one of the 2 drivers, Miguel Ramos.
It's a great circuit, but it's my first time here, also Enric first time, and the team also the first time. And it's a circuit with a lot of technique and fast and banking. We don't know the circuit, so it's a big difference compared to other competitors. But we are here and we'll do our best.
Another Pro-Am contender, the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Alexander West is one of the two drivers. The other is Aston Martin hot shoe Johnny Adam.
Consistency is what we're looking for this weekend. You know, if we can ultimately get 2 podiums this weekend in our class, that would be great for the championship. And it's just nice to come here with the sprint championship and learn from it as well. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Emil Frey Racing has had a bit of a shuffle around of drivers for this weekend. It means that Ricardo Feller, for example, has a new co-driver. But for him, the most important thing is the speed around the circuit.
It's one of my favorite tracks in Europe because we have a cool mix between low-speed corners. The highlight is the high-speed section, especially going up the hill to turn 7, going down to turn 8. Yeah, it's a really good place to be.
Konstantin Terashenko is another member of that young generation of driver coming into GT racing. It's great to have them on the grid, but of course they're learning about these new circuits all the time.
I'm first time here. I learn the track. Every lap for me is new. Like I'm learn lap by lap. These tracks are very different compared to the others in the championship. We look not bad, and yeah, for sure we want to win.
And keep an eye as well on the Sky Tempesta racing Ferrari that has shown great pace in sprint and endurance races. This weekend, Giorgio Roda steps into the seat to join regular driver Chris Froggatt.
Unfortunately, like Magny-Cours, this is a track that my teammate Giorgio had never been to, so a little bit on the back foot with, you know, other lineups that, let's say, a bit more experienced. But yeah, he's doing really well. He's driven quite a lot, so let's see, fingers crossed.
Don't forget that the brands are scoring points all over the globe. Audi takes on BMW and Ferrari. There's Lamborghini, of course. Don't forget to add to the mix McLaren, or indeed Mercedes and Porsche. They're all scoring points from Europe to Australia to America. And right now, McLaren looking very strong indeed, coming here ahead of Mercedes with Porsche and Audi chasing on behind. It's not the sunniest of days, it's not the warmest of days, but it's dry and the grid is formed as we get set for the first of 2 one-hour races here at Zandvoort. It is the second event within the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Sprint Cup. And John Watson, this is a good old school circuit. Many of the drivers have just touched on that. It's got some new modern features. It's still a challenge for everybody involved though.
Very much so indeed, and just interesting listening to the build-up to the event, the comments that were made prior to getting on track. A number of those drivers who thought they might be further up the field will be disappointed with their grid positions here. And as we know at Zandvoort, it's an old-school circuit, it's a great racetrack, but as ever, tough to overtake.
It is indeed, and that's why qualifying this morning was so important. It was only a 20-minute session, and they lost a chunk of that because of a red flag. The clock carried on ticking abnormally, but because the timetable is so tight today, the teams have been told that the clock would carry on ticking, so they lost 6 minutes or maybe a shade more after Benji Goethe went into the gravel. Now, just to finish the story about Benji Goethe, when you cause a red flag, you lose your best lap time. So that put him to the back of the grid. Trouble was that having caused that red flag, he then picked up another behavioural warning point. He's now got 3. That means a 5-place grid drop. So he was at the back anyway. Had he not been, he would have ended up 5 places further down. So poor old Benji Goethe has been in the wars with officialdom to an extent this morning, and his Audi will start at the rear of the grid. He is joined for this weekend by Marcus Finkelhack, who's going to be fascinating to see in the second stint. Now, we're almost ready to go. As you see, the grid is being cleared, and the officials now get the cars ready for the start of the formation lap. So the Audi leading car sets off, the green flag is waved, and everybody now blasts away, ready to get the warmth into the Pirelli tyres on this lap. Pit window 25 to 35 minutes, and the drivers then in the pro class with these pit stops as quick as you can. They're a kind of natural pit stop, but let's look at the grid based on the qualifying times from these drivers this morning. Ricardo Feller Fourth in the championship, starts on pole position with the Belgian driver Ulysse de Pauw alongside him. The underrated Youssef Bouhaka is on row 2. Norbert Seedler back at Emil Frey Racing. He's on the outside of the row ahead of Jim Pla, who was looking really good until he went way wide through the gravel on his last lap, and Nelson Panciatici starting 7th ahead of Timur Boguslavski, 3rd in the championship, last year's champion, and Frank Bird lining up alongside ahead of Lukas Stolz. 2nd in the championship, race winner this year, Thomas Tuila is alongside him, and then Ezequiel Perez Companc starts 11th. He's 6th in the championship. Josef Ovega lines up alongside him ahead of Konsta Lapalainen and Aurelien Panis, who has also copped a grid drop. His was 3 places for overtaking under a yellow flag in free practice on Friday. Charles Weerts comes next. He got a reprimand for impeding the Porsche this morning. Leo Roussel, who lost a lap time for track limit abuse, is alongside him ahead of Benji Highties and Adrian Delina on the 9th row. The 10th row, Tommaso Mosca and the Romanian driver alongside him, which is Petru Umbrescu. Next up comes the Sky Tempesta Ferrari in the hands of Giorgio Roda, and for Attempto Racing, the son of the team owner, which is Alex Arca. Arkin Arca's son lining up 22nd. 23rd on the grid, Miguel Ramos for Barwell Motorsport, and Pro-Am opposition is alongside. It's the Ferrari from AF Corso, Louis Machiels, starts ahead of Valentin Pierberg's Pro-Am Mercedes. Alexander West goes first for Garage 59, and at the back of the grid, with a lot of work to do, will be number 30 Audi. And Benji Goethe starts, and it's Marcus Winkelhock to take over. This is the view from onboard Giorgio Roda's Ferrari as the cars start to weave around, get the warmth into the rubber. John, you mentioned how hard it is to overtake around here. I suppose the obvious place to try is into that Tarzan hairpin at the end of the pit straight.
Big difference this year is that the revised pit lane exit here at Zandvoort, principally for the Grand Prix that will be held later in the year, now means it is a run down in with that concrete wall all the way down till you get to the sort of apex of Tarzan. That also now, by the way, and keep an eye on those pit stops when cars are returning to the field, that then makes the exit of the pit lane at the exit of Tarzan rather than the entry to Tarzan.
And you'll also see at the Tarzan hairpin that there's now a little island of gravel because there's the F1 escape road that runs alongside it and round the back, and you'll see that during the race, which is about to get underway. Race 3 then in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. We're at Zandvoort. It is Riccardo Feller on pole position in the Lamborghini GT Convert. Ulysse de Pauw, we've seen him for the last couple of years in the BRDC British F3 Championship. He lines up alongside as they come off the newly banked Arie Luijendijk curve. The cars straighten, the cars flatten, they accelerate now up towards the line. Charles Weerts there getting into the back of Konsta Lapalainen as the race gets underway. Then it is Blastoff who makes the best start. Not a good start by the Bentley of Ulysse de Pauw. He gets mugged on the run down towards the Tarzan hairpin. He tries to brake late and go round the outside of Riccardo Feller. Youssef Bouhaka's Mercedes is up the inside for 3rd as the cars now wriggle their way down toward the Hugenholzbocht for the first time, which is the next significant left-hander on the banking. But a good start, John, by Feller from pole.
Indeed, very important, and a good start by pretty much everybody in the field. They managed to get through Tarzan without any damage, albeit coming out of the Hugenholzer contact with the Aslan, and side by side, and they have to now get into line because this part of the racetrack is single file only.
That was Lukas Stolz there, look, number 6 in the TopSport WRT Mercedes, hooking a wheel over the curb and getting sideways and having to work really, really hard to keep the Audi. I think it's Frank Bird at the wheel a bit behind him. It is Frank Bird's Audi, so Stolz got away with that, but you don't often see him getting wayward and up the curb. So that actually has broken up the pack a little bit because the leading few have got away, and Charles Weerts here is struggling to get up through the traffic. 163 is ahead of him though. Now that's Norbert Seedler. Seedler was on the 2nd row of the grid. What's he doing all the way back here?
He got shuffled back, I think, patiently on the entry into Tarzan, and then once he lost track position, everybody else was nose to tail. There was no way to dovetail back in.
Well, that's bad news then. Seedler qualified 4th, and he's gone backwards so quickly he'll have flies on the back of his crash helmet on the front as he comes now up towards the Arie Luijendijk box for the first time. So Riccardo Feller leads the way. Charles Weerts here trying to get through the traffic. It's a great sight that as the cars power their way through that banked right onto the pit straight. 1 lap in the book, so Feller leads. The Bentley 2nd of Ulysse de Pauw. 3rd is Bouhaka, 4th Jim Pla, 5th Lukas Stolz, all of them in Mercedes. Frank Bird going nicely 6th ahead of the Bentley of Nelson Panciatici. Timur Boguslavski is 8th, Thomas Tuila's Aston is 9th, and Josef Ovega is in 10th place. So where is this man, Charles Weerts? He is down in 16th place.
Well, he managed to make a pass up the inside, but still running behind the Lamborghini and really, really all over the racetrack, going one side, going the other side, doing all he can to make. Again, here we see the two, the Mercedes Mad Panda, Garage 159, side by side, exactly what they were doing one lap earlier.
Well, the Mad Panda is getting ever more irate. It can't get up through the traffic. Compact tries to take a step forward, but Tuula fends him off. Charles Wirtz is still trying to find his way up through the traffic ahead of him. Number 26 Audi goes by. That is Aurélien Panis, then switching from the Lexus to Audis at Saint-Eloi this season. The experienced single-seater turned GT racer. And coming up to the end of lap 2, Tuula, you can see, still under attack from Compact. And these cars now stuck behind the Aston are losing touch. The cars ahead getting away.
It's beginning to become essentially a two-train race. One train of cars making the break, the 159 Aston Martin, and then the Mad Panda, there's the Bentley also. Again, we're seeing a lot of drivers, maybe it's just something on the racetrack, that's what it is. I keep thinking the wipers, it's the cranes that are causing a reflection on the windscreens of these cars. Great shot of the cars as they exit the bank, Harry Lyondike curve.
So the race leader, Ricardo Feller, 1.6 seconds to the good, as there is an effort being made by the sister Lamborghini further back of Consta Lapalainen to get through the traffic. But Ricardo Feller, then, the Swiss driver, edging clear up front, looking very strong right now. 1.6 seconds was the margin into the eye. That is increasing all the time.
Clear air, nobody to compromise what he's choosing to do. Running the limit of the racetrack, coming out of the Hoogan Hills, up the hill, all the way down into the sand dunes. That's all he needs to do, is focus on what's going on ahead of him. There's nobody who's going to catch him currently, and he's just set fastest sector time on this lap in sector 1, consolidating the advantage he's got.
So he comes then now through the Masters Bocht, through the turn 9, turn 10 sequence of corners, as there, look, Jim Clark is on his toes to try to get past Juuso Pohakka, who it's great to have back racing in Europe. The Finn was doing remarkable things out in Asia in Lamborghini Super Trofeo and in the Middle East series the last couple of years, but has come back to Europe and is running there up at the front. Now that car, number 7 that he shares with Oscar Tunko, had a 7th and a 23rd. Real mixed bag out of the 2 races at Manicure. But right now, Juuso Pohakka runs 3rd, and he's got Jim Clark, who we know is a star in a Mercedes, tucked up there behind him.
Well, Jim Clark made an error in qualifying round wide in the penultimate corner, illustrating just how easy it is to get it wrong coming onto this relatively now short straight in Zandvoort, but couldn't get close enough through that final Harry Lyondike. They call it a balk here, which means corner, and consequently the aero loss means he drops back, and then all the hard yards he makes up in the opening sectors of the racetrack. Again, the compromise in those final sectors. Again, the bank corner, another revision to this Zandvoort circuit that was introduced 1 year ago.
So that's the Hugenholz Bocht, very, very impressive corner, and now the speed building up through Hunsrück on towards the Rob Slottermacher Bocht, and now towards Skeeflach at the top of the lap through that right-hander. That's where we lost Goethe in the qualifying session, short straight down to the Masters Bocht, down through the gears. So we've got the first 5 minutes and a shade completed, and it is Lamborghini, Bentley, Mercedes, 1, 2, 3. Feller leads DePau, leads Pohakka. It is Louis Machiels leading the Pro-Am contest. The leading silvers at the moment are indeed the overall leaders, Alex Fontana and Ricardo Feller. And the start of 108, which is Nelson Panciatici, and 33, which is Benji Heites, they're all being looked at by the officials.
Well, while the officials are looking at that, Jim Pla is only looking at the rear of the Mercedes directly ahead of him. He gets close from this point to the end of the lap. That's where he then loses time. Just the aero effect beginning to wash out, the wash from the back of that
the Pohakka Mercedes 3rd. There's Jim Pla 4th. 5th is Lukas Stoll. So the Mercedes that had really good pace yesterday, we thought were looking good in qualifying, they then got mugged right at the end. But right now, Pohakka not staying on the back of the CMR run Bentley. The French team, which is here running GT3 and GT4 cars, doing an impressive job with the Bentleys this year, as Jim Pla took a wall of death now that corner right away up the bank.
Yeah, right. He rode it almost to the point that all four wheels were over that demarcation line. Track limits, we keep referring to them. That's watching the start again. Where did Seedler lose out?
He just didn't get away, did he? It was as though the car was either in the wrong gear or... Oh, there you go. He couldn't get out of the traffic. 108 had got on its toes quite early, so Seedler rather got hemmed in. Others were quick from behind him, but he couldn't get out of the traffic to make a move on either side, I think. He just got boxed in.
That's exactly what we said. Just when we said, where's Seedler? Why is he so far back? He got caught out, boxed in. He had nowhere to go. He had grass on the left and a lot of other cars to his right.
So 108 Bentley there, look, getting through the traffic and almost creating its own gaps. That was Nelson Panciatici, and his start is under investigation. Was it a really good start, or was it a bit anticipatory? Tibor Boguslavski's view. Thomas Tuula on the left-hand side. That's brave, isn't it? Round the outside through the Gerlach Bocht, up the inside to Hugenholtz. But Boguslavski fended him off. Good stuff. Battle is on here, look, because Frank Bird comes to the inside to try and attack Nelson Panciatici, who runs out of road.
Well, that's going to be difficult to make up ground, getting wide like that. Not only has he run wide, but there is an element of grass. It doesn't look as if any of it's gotten into the air and taken the Bentley, but that'll be something that the team will have to keep an eye on, as well as the driver. Panciatici trying to really recover and being unaware that there's a Mercedes on the outside. Contact, and I'm sure he didn't even realize that that Mad Panda, it was the Mad Panda Mercedes that got elbowed out off the racetrack.
So Panciatici, one error at Tarzan, and it compounds through the next switchback of corners, and ultimately another casualty of it is Compact in the now irate Panda Motorsport Mercedes, who gets shuffled out all over the curb and falls back in the battle pack. So 108 Nelson Panciatici right now is the cork in the bottle, because he's not yet back up to speed. He's got rather grubby tyres, and he's got quicker cars crawling all over him.
Well, those tyres will take half a lap or so to clean up, and in the process you're driving a car that feels as if yours is on ice and everybody else is driving on a dry track.
Now up front, Ricardo Feller for Emil Freire Racing is getting away to the tune of 3.5 seconds. Charles Wirtz there has now got himself up past Ezequiel Perez Compact as well. Leo Roussel tries the move himself, and this is Lukas Stoltz's view. Now Stoltz is down in 5th place. He's still got a lot of work to do to catch Jim Clark, never mind to make progress. But of course, we've got a pit window and we've got a driver change, so the order could well shuffle in the second stint.
Well, all you can do is do the best, literally, as the two Emil Freire Lamborghinis come down into Tarzan. Are they going to go side by side around? Well, they got the two Audis, or the one Audi and the one Bentley directly ahead. So again, as you said, David, everything is now just being stalled out by the pace of the Bentley. And look, down low, is that going to work? Not really, because you lose corner speed high up. Just you have to make sure you don't open up a door.
That was Norbert Seedler trying the line, the low line as it were, to get underneath the sister car of Consta Lapalainen. But it didn't come to anything as Josef Ovega goes through ahead of the Aston Martin, the Garage 59 entry number 159 of Thomas Tuula. There is Panciatici, so down in 10th place. So he's being looked at for his start, but then he's made that error himself and fallen back. This is Charles Wirtz, only in 14th place. I tell you what, Dries Vanthoor is going to have a really hard stint, isn't he, to haul that car up the order.
Well, he's going to ask his WRT team to do the best pit stop they've done all year, to try and reverse what happened in qualifying and getting blocked in Charles Pitts. He's trying to defend because he's got the Mad Panda Mercedes going one side, so he goes offline in the process. That will hamper his exit speed now coming down into this Kumu Bocht. Same problem he has as everybody else in line has. You've got to back off, and then when the car's ahead of you accelerate, the gap just opens back up and you find yourself on the back foot as you come on to the main straight.
Look at these top speeds on the pit straight as the cars come over the timing line. Nelson Panciatici 266 kilometers an hour as Seedler attacks Lapalainen, who leads to Pau 265. So the fastest things in a straight line. perhaps in spite of their shape, the Bentleys, then the Aston, Thomas Tuchel the third fastest in a straight line, and then Norbert Seedler the fourth bravest, you could argue, coming past the pits. And this time around it's Charles Wirtz that tries the lower line to get up alongside Seedler, and it doesn't work for him either.
No, I think that lower line, it's attractive because it's a bit of racetrack that nobody's using, so you think you might gain an advantage, but it's the high line, and this is why they've got a banked corner at the Hugenholz, what was the original Hugenholz. That is the quicker way. You stay high as long as you don't run wide over that white demarcation line.
So right now, Charles Wirtz is trying to make progress. The pit window, 25 to 35 minutes, and in some cases it might be that a team bails early to get out of the traffic, because right now there is a long traffic jam, isn't there, that's really tempt them back, with Ricardo Feller leading by 4.4 seconds. Goes through, which is Adrian Delina starting in the dynamic motorsport car, but he's down in 19th place, and he's another one that can't get through the traffic. John made the point pre-race, it is tough to overtake around here, and as the leaders go over the timing line, this group of cars, which is currently 12th, 13th, 14th area, come through the last corner. So Feller has really benefited from those squabbles going on behind him, because he's disappeared up the road. He's already 4.7 seconds to the good after just 8 laps.
Well, he's got no one to race with, which is probably maybe something he's missing. But on the other hand, what he isn't doing, he's got a clear racetrack, and Zandvoort is one of those racetracks. We talk about old school racetrack. You've got grass by the side of the racetrack. But from a driver's perspective, driving on this style of circuit, he can enjoy what he's doing. He's pulling away fractionally lap by lap, but he's enjoying what he's doing. It's not a modern, wide-open, tarmac, concrete, or whatever racetrack. This is proper old school. It's even the grass, you can see it's even been burned by the sun that was here earlier in the week.
It's a great circuit, Zandvoort, and it's good that it's having big events. The Grand Prix coming back as well. Now look at this, coming back to third place is Jim Clark, because fourth, he got onto the tail of Juuso Pohaka once again. The next part of the story about those two cars whose starts are being looked at is that the team managers have just been summoned to the stewards immediately. So we might be getting some penalties, we'll see. As Pohaka versus Pla, then you've got here the Top Sport entry just ahead of the ACA ASP car. So same cars, different teams, off the bank line dyke curve they come, and now they power past the pits. And Jim Pla last time was 0.4 of a second back. This time he goes through the margin just 0.3 of a second.
And that's the kind of zone he needs to get in, but he needs to be in that zone before he comes into the Harry Lyondike box, because you lose that little bit initially, use the slipstream then for the second part of the straight. I thought on that lap maybe Jimmy Pla might make a move down the inside, but it was certainly easily covered by Pohaka in the number 7 Mercedes. So no pass available.
Challenge there, look, because for Pro-Am leadership, Miguel Ramos goes right round the outside of Louis Machiels at the Tarzan hairpin, and he gets the class lead. Great move.
It's one of the corners you can use the outside to make a pass, particularly on the opening lap. I did it on many occasions. The thing you need to be careful of is the car you're going around the outside of, that it is aware that you're going around the outside, that it doesn't drive you up and drive you off the racetrack, as happened back in 1977 when James Hunt drove Mario Andretti off the racetrack at the exit of Tarzan hairpin.
Well, that was a great move by Ramos, round the outside, and you see the pace that he's got, because having got ahead of Louis Machiels then into the lead of Pro-Am, he's getting away. What's that, 4-5 lengths already? So the Barwell Lamborghini, Barwell new to Sprint Cup this year, but not new to 1-hour races, because many of the British GT rounds are 60-minute duration, and Barwell hugely successful in that, but it's good to have them in this series. So Ramos now getting away in the class with third, Valentin Pierberg's Mercedes, fourth, Alexander West in the Aston Martin. Out of the line dyke curve comes the midfield battle, including 33 Ferrari there, which is Benji Heites in 17th place. The leading gap is over 5.4 seconds now. It's a really impressive first stint, this, by Ricardo Feller in the lead.
Absolutely, but just to go back to what Miguel Ramos did in the Barwell Lamborghini, that's all about confidence. Here in this part of the racetrack, everybody automatically files down in to the inside of the corner. Ramos did something a little bit different and creative. He had the confidence in himself, he had the grip in the car to take that move and make it stick. If more drivers considered doing that at Tarzan, forget about trying to do something up the inside in Hugenholt, we might see 1 or 2 more overtakes.
Well, there is Charles Wirtz then, the championship leader. Ricardo Feller, who is driving with Alex Fontana for the first time this year, part of the shuffling of the drivers that's gone on at Emil Frey Racing. He had a 2nd and a 26th, so totally disparate results at Manicourt was Ricardo Feller's ball. As here, Charles Wirtz tries to get up the inside and still can't do it. That was his best chance yet, wasn't it, to unsettle Consta Lapalainen for 13th place, but the Lamborghini just able to fend him off.
Again, going into turn 9, the line that the Lamborghini had was the line that would make it easier. He would have been aware that Wirtz was trying to dive up the inside, but the Audi had to slow down a lot more to turn into the corner than the Lamborghini was doing, and that's why the Lamborghini Lapalainen was able to hold that position. Now, I bet you can see he was taking small fractions of a second out of him, but then that final... this is good looking at the Audi and the Mercedes. Again, coming through the Arie Luyendyk box, Wirtz needs to get closer to the back of Lapalainen. Maybe he would try. He is closing. The Lamborghini is going to cut away at the point when the Lamborghini was going to take the inside line or not. Yes, well, Wirtz has gotten through.
He's done it. He's done
Maybe
it.
Wirtz went around there, so we didn't see it, but we were about to catch it just then. We cut. Wow, he goes very wide and gets all 4 wheels over that white line.
So now what's going to be interesting is to see how Charles Wirtz gets away. He's worked hard to get past Consta Lapalainen. It's taken him really 11 laps, but finally he's done it. Ezequiel Perez Compact is next in the queue, delayed early on in the race, but Wirtz now is getting away. So Charles Wirtz through and starting to pull clear of Consta Lapalainen. Dries Van Voor has still got a lot of work to do in the second stint of the race, no question about that, as the cars currently work lap number 12 here. We're getting warnings for Compact, incidentally, about track limits at turn 3 going high over the white line on the unofficial wall of death. But with a third of the race gone, Ricardo Feller leads by 5.5 seconds, and there, look, Adrian Medina, number 54 Porsche, very busy indeed, squabbling. Gets ahead of Tommaso Mosca, and that gives him a place.
5 minutes to go before pit lane opens. The gap first to second, well, 5.8, just under 6 seconds. So very comfortable indeed for Ricardo Feller. And I don't know what the Emil Frey team would do, but in my view, I would keep that Lamborghini that is currently leading on the track until the last late moment to make his pit stop. But anybody else, it's going to be a problem there. Somebody going slow and something. Is that fluid or is that sand coming from the rear of the car? It's the Ferrari, and it was sand.
Let's have a look. Has he been off the road?
Warning flag to car 32, track limits 3 times in turn 3.
So that's a black and white flag for Charles Wirtz for track limits that you heard from the race director. That was Benji Heites getting it wrong at the approach to the Luyendyk curve and running it off the road, and now, as a consequence of that, he's in the pit lane.
Yes, and he got wide, and you can see just how much sand has been blown over the racetrack. Still blowing pretty hard here at Zandvoort, but the racing line is clean. If you get too high, the sand there is going to take you. Luckily, kept it out of the wall, but did run off the racetrack and into the pit lane.
Just looked at that left front wheel. I was trying to work out whether it was a wobbly wheel that caused the off rather than be the result of it, but we'll see whether the car rejoins. That will tell us how serious it is. It's still in the pits and it's been there for over half a minute, so it's not looking great, this, as the leading car, Ricardo Feller, comes through. There are problems, look, for the Ferrari here to the front of it.
Drive-through penalty to car 108 and car 33 for jump start.
So 108 Nelson Panciatici and number 33, which is the Rinaldi Ferrari. Well, there it is in the pit lane, so the drive-through penalty matters not for the moment. But for Panciatici, down in 10th place, the race is going from bad to worse.
Yes, I mean, that's a disappointment. And look, when the lights go green, some drivers maybe anticipated a little bit more than they ought to do, and you get caught out. And listen, it's very difficult not to get caught out the spy in the cab, let alone the spy in the sky. Well, always find here's a replay.
So Panciatici in the second of the Bentleys. Look, straight away he goes to the middle just before the green lights came on. And makes an advancement from his grid position a fraction too early. He was the more obvious of the two, because Benjamin Hightower was further back in the pack. As there, the 108 Bentley turns through, so Franceschi 10th at the moment, but he's going to fall back with this drive-through penalty. And then, of course, there's the mandatory stop anyway to do the driver change.
Yes, and you're coming up with it just under 2 minutes to go before the pit lane opens, so have to serve one penalty, then go back out and then come in and do your driver and wheel tyre change.
Lucas Scholz has had a curious stint. We know he's got good pace, but that car's never quite come alive in the way you would have hoped. He's not been able to stay on the back of Jim Clark, who in turn has got a bit stuck behind Juuso Pohaka, whereas Frank Bird, running 6th, has had a really good stint here for Team WRT, sharing with winner here last year, Ichiro Tomita, and they got a 10th at Manny Core as the better of the two results. Now, let's have another look at the start. This is on board with Boguslavski. Have a look at that Bentley on the left, John, as the cars come up towards the start.
To some degree, actually, the Lamborghini got on the brakes and Franceschi was then forced to pull into the middle. He did get back on the brakes a couple of times. It's been reviewed, but he's been determined that he did take advantage, and therefore that's why the penalty's been issued.
Frank Bird goes through then for WRT, graduate of the UK racing scene before coming to Europe last year. We've just had 108 Bentley serve that jump start drive-through, as the battle is on here still for 3rd place. So it's Juuso Pohaka, number 7. There you see, look, the Bentley effectively now getting the best part of a lap down. Won't be a total lap down, but it's going to lose a massive amount of time. But this is the 3rd. Pohaka versus Clark then. Jim Clark looking the quicker of the two, but we come back to the perennial Zandvoort problem. He can't find the room, can he, to get past?
Well, he's been all over him like a rash, all through the 1st and 2nd sectors. So let's look again and see.
A little tap in the tail.
That was a little bit of a, yes, going to move on, but...
yeah, Clark, what does he do, John? He's running out of ideas, isn't he?
Well, I think he's run out of ideas. He probably ran out of them probably in the opening 2 laps. He can catch in Sector 1 and Sector 2, but catch into Sector 3. This time, again, we've seen it previously, a little bit closer. Doesn't seem to have the ability at this point to take the punt, to go down the inside. Now, he could think about maybe doing the run around the outside, but I think right now the pace that Pohaka is running at is sufficiently good to deny Jim Clark the opportunity to go around the outside.
The pit window will be open at the end of this lap for these cars. That markers it might even open in time for them to pit shortly as Chris Roderick gets ready to take over his Ferrari. So if you can't overtake on the track, do you make an early pit stop and try and use the limited amount of strategy in that 10-minute window to your advantage? Well, this is the fight for 3rd then. The rival Mercedes teams chasing Bentley, which in turn is chasing Lamborghini up front, and now the pit window is open.
Well, I think in my case, with Jim Clark running in at 4th place, again, keep him in the car as long as possible, because when he comes in to hand over to Konstantin Tereshchenko, one would say that Clark has got maybe that little bit greater pace than Tereshchenko might have, so allow the pit stop to come at the end of the window rather than the early part of it.
So Jim Clark, who's raced Mercedes GT3 and GT4s very successfully for the last few seasons, but runner-up in Carrera Cup France, very, very experienced driver. Konstantin Tereshchenko, Spanish Formula 3, Euro Formula Open, but only this year really coming into GT cars. Has had a European Le Mans Series spell in prototypes. In the meantime, Giorgio Roda here, very, very busy keeping Alex Arca at bay. Benji Goethe from the back of the grid has cleared these two, but he's making some progress, ready to hand over to Marcus Finkelhack, as in comes Stoltz, in comes Frank Bird, in comes Timo Boguslavski. So that is 5th, 6th, 7th down the pit lane. And more
can understand why the 88 Mercedes has come in, because that'll be handed over to the green-haired Rafaeli Martiello, and likewise the number 6 Mercedes, that'll be handed over to Maro Engel. Maybe Maro Engel can do a little bit more than Lucas Stoltz was able to do.
For track limits more than 3 times.
And 88 is Timo Boguslavski. That car blasts away now with Rafaeli Martiello at the wheel. and gets ahead, does it not, of Stoltz on the pit stops? Yes. So Frank Bird gains 1 place. Martiello gains 1 place. Frank Bird's car now with Reichiro Tomita at the wheel. The loser out of that, Maro Engel, because the TalkSport Mercedes look has dropped 2 places in the pits.
Yeah, that'll be a disappointment, particularly the car directly ahead has got Rafaeli Martiello behind the wheel. And even coming onto the circuit, it seems that the gap between the 3 cars, between certainly Martiello and Maro Engel, is increased. Well, shouldn't have been the case, but there we are.
Yeah, that stop from Lucas Stoltz, now Maro Engel, was 52.7 seconds. The Audi and Mercedes stops 49, so they lost about 3 seconds in the pits there.
I wonder how much of that might have been getting rolling and getting back out, because there were a lot of traffic coming down. So he may not have been able to literally get out to the pit lane exit at the pace he would have done had it been a clear racetrack. But the 88 Mercedes, Rafaeli Martiello, 31 Audi, Tomita, and here is the 32. Oh, what was that, a lockup?
That's Engel making a mistake, isn't it? That's Engel then.
He certainly looked like...
So Maro Engel gets it wrong, loses more places. Charles Wirtz has just come in, as have Lapalainen and Compact, Mosca and Umberescu. But Maro Engel's race here is unravelling, isn't it? I mean, it was a bad pit stop, and now he's made a mistake on his outlap job.
Yeah, but we didn't quite see what led to that mistake. Certainly we just saw a puff of blue smoke and the car running wide going into turn 10. Whether that was driver or whether it was something that we weren't aware of, whatever it is, the car that would have been, in my view, a front-running car is becoming a mid-running car.
Tell you one to watch, number 163 Lamborghini, because Albert Costa, fresh into the car from Norbert Seedler, has done the absolute best of anybody in the first sector. The leader has not yet pitted, so Ricardo Fella, is he in this time? He's not. He's going to stay out for 1 more lap then, so do qualifying lap after qualifying lap, really. He has done the best lap of the race. He's 7.6 seconds clear of Ulysse de Pauw. But there, Maro Engel, look, is coming under attack now from Dries Zandvoort. This is going to be a good fight.
Well, I'm assuming that Maro Engel has regrouped and managed to move forward from that issue 1 lap ago. But with Dries Zandvoort behind you, you will always have to keep one eye on your mirror as you look forward. And Dries Zandvoort will be trying very hard. But look, side by side, Rafaeli Martiello, but he's on the outside as they come down into turns 11 and 12. And the Audi just about, but you can imagine Rafaeli Martiello doing everything he possibly can. He's going to have to stay close to the back of the Audi as possible to gain any opportunity as they come through that final Arrêt Laandijk box. A gap again just opens up as they come into the bank corner.
So it is Tomita ahead of him as the cars now make their way over the line. Reichiro Tomita, a winner here last year with Kelvin van der Linde, makes a mistake there, doesn't he, John?
He did, under brakes, the Audi got a bit squirrely. Martiello saw that, thought about going around the outside, declined the option to do it, but certainly the pressure showed on Tomita that he had to, on the limit and braking for the Audi.
Now, number 163, Albert Costa, has done the fastest lap of the race, his first flying lap in the car, and he has done the quickest lap of the race. Contact at pit entry between a couple of cars is being looked at as well. The leader is in. You're looking at Martiello, now you're looking at the leader. So Ricardo Fella is about to morph into Alex Fontana, the Swiss-Greek driver, to take over. And the Emil Frey Racing squad goes to work then. 2 mechanics.
Well, they've done a great job to build up the lead.
Yeah. Just those 2 mechanics.
And what they do not need to...
Go on, John.
What they don't need to do is in a pit stop, and as you point out, the number of people working in the car, threw that advantage away, having done all the good work in that opening stint.
That looked a good stop, didn't it? And the car will rejoin. We'll see what the pit stop time is when it breaks the beam at pit out. The best that we've had thus far, 49.5 seconds, which was from WRT, and we know they excel in the pits. And number 14, 51.1, so not a mega stop, so they have lost a couple of seconds, but of course did have a big gap in hand anyway.
They had just under 6 seconds advantage before they came in, or before the pit stop window opened. But look, Martiello, close as you can get, coming through the Tarzan hairpin. Opportunity maybe coming up as a... Oh, and he's spun it. No, it's the Aston Martin. Oh, dear me. Johnny Adam. Oh, I beg your pardon, not the shell guard.
It is. Nikolai Shearguard then rotates, rejoins. That was coming into the last couple of corners, wasn't it? Into the Kumo box. Look at all the sand he's dragged onto the circuit with him.
Next car round will find that sand further down the racetrack than before.
Now, right now, this is the battle, but reverse order from earlier on. In other words, 87 Mercedes is ahead of number 7, and that means that we now have the car of Jim Clark up ahead on the road of Oscar Tunjo. Now, it shows Jim Clark, but that car has made a pit stop, so it should be Terashenko at the wheel of it. Ignore what it says on the Lumirand and not click the transponder. But Terashenko has jumped ahead of Tunjo. Those two Mercedes have switched order in the pit stops.
Yes, but it looks like the 7 is trying to get that position back. Certainly went one way, the other way, then back again, coming into turn 10.
So Alex Fontana leads the way. 107 Bentley has now served its pit stop from second place with Pierre-Alexandre Jean at the wheel of it. Number 90, a rather battle-scarred Mad Panda Mercedes on its dollies. That's not good. Have a look at this. Now, it's got damage, and do we know why there's damage? Ah, yes, that's why, because he's brought the marker board with him. But look, there's a headlight missing anyway. So an incident has happened at pit-in.
I don't know whether, I think that the damage to the right front was done prior to hitting that pit board. I don't know, certainly the amount of damage, the headlight and the front guard, more than just hitting that pit board to tell you to slow down to 50 k's per hour.
I would agree. We've had a report on the timing screen about contact and pit entry under investigation. I suspect that was one of the cars involved in it. Great Mercedes battle here, isn't it? Terashenko having to work overtime, John, to keep number 7 Mercedes and Oscar Tunjo behind him.
Yes, and done a good job in the process. Again, two cars can't really get an awful lot closer around the turns through the sand dunes. You can just see how much you can close up under brakes, but then under acceleration, this sort of seesaw effect. And because the gap between the corners here on the infield and Zandvoort is relatively small, you're going to see that exaggeration even more.
Well, Alex Fontana now drives the leading car, and we'll see at the end of this lap what the gap is going to be. Yellow flag being waved there. Now, what has happened further down the straight? Is that for debris on the road? There's the green flag, so whatever that was all about, it's fairly innocuous. Might just be because of the debris at the pit-in line, as you can see in the background. So the leader goes through then. Fontana is clear. There's the second place Bentley, and that's 10.7 seconds now to Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Third is Rafaeli Martiello. Fourth, there, look, the white and yellow Audi of Tomita. And this is the battle for fifth now. Pla, or rather Terashenko, it's still shown as Pla on the screen.
Full course yellow in 10 seconds.
It is Terashenko just ahead of Tunjo. We're going full course yellow, as you heard.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now. It will be a short one to remove debris at pit entry. It will be a short one to remove debris at pit entry.
Now, the significance about a short full course yellow, John, is we might not need a safety car. If they can get rid of that debris very swiftly indeed, we can release almost immediately.
Exactly what I was thinking. But of course, ordinarily, we'd always have a safety car after a full course yellow. But as Alan Adan, the race director, has said, but they can clear all that debris at pit lane entry, and that's mostly Mad Panda Mercedes bodywork. Then we would hopefully get this race back underway before we've completed this full course yellow lap.
Now, we understand that the Mad Panda Mercedes was coming into the pits, a car ahead slowed and then speeded up.
Restart on short notice.
We're getting ready for a restart, so the Mad Panda Mercedes hit the car ahead, which had slowed and then speeded up for reasons that aren't immediately apparent. But restart on short notice means that we should avoid a safety car process here, because it's a short full course yellow. The tyres won't have lost too much temperature.
No, and drivers have to be fully aware.
4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
Dries Van Thor all over the back of the Mercedes, but has got blocked in. He's thought he was taking a blinding move up narrow angle. He's got track position, but Engel will be side by side all the way down the hill till they come to turn 11 and 12. So Dries van Thor, great thinking, light on his feet, but gets outmaneuvered by the more experienced, slightly older Mauro Engel.
And just up the road is Christopher Mies. Behind them is Fred Verviche. So you've got all the stars here battling for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th places. Engel then getting himself onto the back of Mies as they come off the line dyke box up towards the timing line in a moment. Up past the pits they will come. Of course, the race leader continues with a good gap after that full course yellow, but we're back racing with just under 23 minutes to go. Time has flown by. Engel is on his toes on the outside line there. Christopher Mies in the green and black Audi fends him off, but Engel keeps on coming round the outside. Is there going to be room for a Mercedes? He can't get round the outside. He'll have the inside for turn 2. Into the Gerlach box they come. He doesn't go round the outside at this part, but it's the inside for the Hugenholtz corner, and Engel goes deep and makes contact, but he has gone by. Mies runs up the curb. Let me back on, he says, but he can't do it, and Engel has gone by, and here comes Dries van Thor.
Yes, and Mies made it, but he got outmaneuvered. Look, that's what that corner, that's why they introduced the bank corner at Hugenholtz to allow 2 cars side by side, but unfortunately Christopher Mies got too wide, lost the position, and then allowed Dries van Thor, who was following, to slide up the inside and take the pass. So Christopher Mies, 2 positions lost from entry into Tarzan to the exit of Hugenholtz.
And then a third, because look, the blue Audi there of Fred Verviche has gone by as well, and it could be a 4th, because look, 163 Albert Costa in the car that qualified 4th, but got mugged right at the start. That car, fastest lap of the race set by Albert Costa. He is on his toes, and look, down towards the Hans-Ernst box. He comes up the inside line of Christopher Mies. Can't make a pass there, but he's certainly showed intent, hasn't he?
He does, and I think Christopher Mies is a victim of running wide in the exit of Hugenholtz, as we've seen previously. You get off track, it is grass at the side of the track. That grass gets embedded in the hot Pirelli tyre, causes you to lose traction and grip. Now he's got Albert Costa. Albert Costa, as close as you can get, closer than anybody I've seen as they come down the main straight, watching this battle going on between the 2 Mercedes.
Oh! Is that naughty? Oh, that's naughty, that's Costa.
And that's even worse.
Albert Costa off the road at the Tarzan hairpin. Did he fall or was he pushed? We'll try and get to the bottom of that in a moment, but he's got damage. Look at the left rear corner. There's either a tyre that's gone down or there's some suspension damage, and Albert Costa's good showing has come to an end. That's going very slowly now.
Yeah, indeed. You can imagine Christopher Mies. In fact, Costa had got the high ground, got the inside, but somehow or other the right front caught the left rear of the Lamborghini, and that is why Albert Costa has driven off the racetrack right now rather than do any further damage to the Lamborghini. Will this see a further full course yellow? Depends on where around the racetrack the Lamborghini has pulled off. 20 minutes remaining.
I reckon that's on the run through to the approach to the Hugenholtz box, just around the back of the paddock. He's gone for a vehicle access gate, but yes, out of the race. Real shame that after Costa's great pace. Just a tiny little skim between the 2 cars. You can see instantly it did for the tyre. So that's another car out of the race. What's going on in our Mercedes fight is that Terashenko is back ahead of Chunko now. So briefly over the line, Chunko was ahead by 25 thousandths, but normal service is resumed. That slippery surface flag is to warn of debris on the racetrack. 20 minutes to go. Fontana now leading by 14.8 seconds. But, no surprise, the 3rd place car of Rafaeli Martiello is lapping quicker than the 2 leaders.
Yeah, but a long way ahead is that number 14 Lamborghini. I mean, he's got a 17-second gap between 1st and 3rd. And got 19 minutes remaining. Take a second and a bit of lap out would be amazing. On board with Dries van Thor. Still trying to hunt down Mauro Engel. Got alongside in turns 9 and 10, but then got caught by Christopher Mies, and that allowed Mauro Engel to consolidate back up through the dunes now. Look at the speed, 236 kilometers per hour before he gets the brakes. That is quick through that part of the circuit.
So out of the Masters box comes Dries van Thor, the championship leader, don't forget, because the number 32 WRT Audi got a 1st and a 2nd out of the 2 races in France, one in the dark, one in the daylight. And Dries van Thor now hustling on behind the Mauro Engel-driven Mercedes, running in 7th place, but it could have been so much better, couldn't it? A mistake made by Engel on his outlap, a slow-ish pit stop, and now he has got Dries Van Voort crawling all over him.
It looks to me as if Maro Engel struggling for grip. I mean, turning into turn 10 was wider than I would have thought he would like to be, and Dries Van Voort was able to hold that much tighter line, get a better exit. But of course, likewise, his pace is being dictated by that of Maro Engel. Here again through the Arilandijk box, the Mercedes can stretch his legs. Dries Van Voort is powerless to do anything about it, and in fact he would like another 20 horsepower. Maybe that would make the difference.
Yeah, again, it shows how the BOP works. It also shows the frustration of those drivers that are stuck in the traffic, can't find a way by. 33 Ferrari that we were told was out of the race has just driven back down the pit lane, so maybe a little bit of testing is suddenly being called for here, but they had notified it as a retirement. Anyway, the car's back on the racetrack for what it's worth, and that is the leader. It's been an absolutely imperious performance, hasn't it?
I mean, both drivers have just done a stunning job. It was a great turnaround in the pit lane. Wasn't the quickest, didn't need to be the quickest. It just had to be a no-mistake pit stop. And now Alex Fontana just compounding what Ricardo Fella did in the opening stint. Got a gap of, what, on the last lap, 15.2 seconds. Rafaeli Martiello has closed down the gap in second to third just to 2.8 seconds. But overall gap first to third remains 17 seconds.
And this is the man second, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who first really came to prominence in GT4, doing great things with the Alpine that CMR ran, works for Alpine, and Pierre-Alexandre Jean, the wheel of the Bentley, runs up to the curb, off the banking, but good effort as it has been, I don't think he's going to get much closer to that rather dominant Lamborghini just up the road. So Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw set for second place after a 9th and a 7th in France. So it's been a good turnaround. However, they're only 2.5 seconds up the road from this car, and Rafaeli Martiello, with the new green hair, is pounding along. That last lap that he did was 0.3 quicker than the Bentley, so he's inching up onto the tail.
He is, and with 16 minutes and a bit remaining, it's my contention that Rafaeli Martiello will catch up to the Bentley. But remember, quickest cars here down the straight are those two CMR Racing Bentleys, 266 kilometers per hour, quicker than Martiello's Mercedes. So he is quicker in a lap, he's quicker in the first 2 sectors of that lap, only losing out fractionally as they come through the Arilandijk box, down across start-finish line.
It is fascinating, isn't it, just to watch the way the cars move around. Sometimes with a GT3 car, at certain circuits, you get used to seeing it running almost on a rail, but here they do move around quite a lot. Rick Brokers, incidentally, has changed his story to an extent and fessed up to a mistake that caused the damage rather than the car ahead slowing. The drive-through penalty for number 33 still needs serving now that it's gone back into the race. We're 15 minutes away from the end, as there you see the 4th placed, rather lonely Audi of Raichiro Tomita, and in 5th it is Teroshenko, 6th is Tunko, then 7th Engel, 8th Van Voort, 9th is Vervish, and 10th is Mies.
Yes, I mean, Tomita's relatively secure in his 4th place. He's got Teroshenko, what, some 3.1 seconds behind, but it doesn't look, from what we can see on screen, that that's going to be a particular threat to the current 4th position. The one that really is going to be of interest is between 2nd and 3rd place. The gap 2nd and 3rd didn't change a huge amount in that last lap, 2.3 seconds. So maybe I'm overestimating just the powers of Rafaeli Martiello to drag that Bentley into his clasps. Waved yellow flag again as they come up into the Hogenholzheffen. Now, why is there a car off track, or has a car been off track and gotten back on?
I think it's the Costa Lamborghini being retrieved, would be my suggestion. I think it's where it parked. So right now, Rafaeli Martiello 3rd does lead his class. That's the leading pro car, because it's 2 Silver Cup entries ahead. So Fontana and Fella, de Pauw and Jean, they're silvers. The leading pro-am is Enrique Chaves now, who has taken over from the Barwell Lamborghini of Miguel Ramos. It was Miguel that drove it first, and leading pro-am ahead of Andrea Bertolini, and then Dominic Baumann is now 3rd in pro-am, having taken the seat in Valentin Pierberg's Mercedes. Maro Engel is still under huge pressure from Dries Van Voort. Dries crashed out of the Nürburgring 24 hours. Maro Engel recently crashed out of the Nürburgring 24 hours. But right now they are toe-to-toe on track at Zandvoort.
And again, going through turn 10, you can see the Mercedes. We saw the Mercedes slightly wider at what I would call the apex. It's a late apex in turn 10, whereas the Audi able to tuck its nose in, get the better line, and in theory, get the better pace.
Now there is the Pro-Am leading Barwell Lamborghini. I was just mentioning Enrico Chavez, and there he is, having taken the car over from Miguel Ramos. Ramos being a busy chap this weekend as well, because he's racing in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. One of two drivers in this, also in the GT4 race. So you come this way, you've coped with all the bureaucracy of COVID. You might as well get as much mileage in as you possibly can. But for Barwell, yet another class win looks to be heading its way. There, down now in 20th place, is the Stefan Richelme driven Bentley. Remember, it's had the drive-through as well as the regulation stop. Andrea Bertolini here is second in Pro-Am. Now, Enrique Chavez's last lap was a 36.6. Bertolini's last lap was a 36.7, so it's very much advantage Lamborghini.
Yes, and I mean, Bertolini is the much more experienced driver of that pairing in the 52 Ferrari. 12 minutes remaining.
So where's the next battle going to come from? Looking at gaps between them, it is still really Tereschenko and Tunko, the two Mercedes coming by next to nothing at all, 0.4 of a second last time. And there's this battle as well, Engel and Vanthor coming by just under half a second last time around.
Well, Maro Engel's had to do a lot of consolidation, having had disappointment earlier in his stint, but Dries van Voor on his tail has never really, other than that one opportunity in turns 9 and into turn 10, put any real heat onto the back of the Mercedes of Maro Engel. Trying to close. If he can get maybe another car length closer, he might have a thought. Again, the body language of the Mercedes to me just doesn't look as if Maro Engel's very comfortable with the handling of that car. He's not able to energize the car. He's having to drive it really sort of by his fingertips.
Again, it's so frustrating, isn't it, for Vanthor? He's quick, we know he's quick, he's almost there, but the BOP works equating these two cars. There just isn't an opportunity for him unless he can force an error out of Engel. Engel, in turn, can't go after Tunko because he's so busy defending from Vanthor as they flick from turn 7. Skeefloch up towards the Mastersbocht through that right-hander, and then through turns 9 and 10.
This is the weak part of the circuit to me for Maro Engel. Allows Dries van Voor to get as close as he has been really at any point in the recent laps. Then the run down the hill. It's quite a steep downhill braking. It doesn't really show quite so much on camera into turn 11 and 12. Then it flattens out before you go into the beginning of the banking.
25 track limits more than 3 times.
And 25 is Christopher Haase, who is charging on in 12th place, just ahead of Jules Gounon. Right here, off the banking comes Dries van Voor. The move, if he wants to do a move at Tarzan, has to start going through that corner, but he's not close enough, is he? He's about 2 lengths back, even as they come off the line dike bocht.
I mean, he's thinking he would love to be able to dive down the inside. Engel takes the much later turn. Doesn't want to get the nose of the Mercedes in because I just still feel that he's not comfortable with the car's handling. And that frustrates Dries van Voor because he wants to do something which is, in a sense, being controlled by what Engel's doing.
So the car's charged then through Unzerud up to the Slottermacher box and then to Skeefloch at the top of the lap, turn through that right-hander. It's a really daunting corner, it's claimed, and many a victim over the years. Over the brow through that little kink and then set the car up for the Masters box. Of course, for many years, the F3 Masters competition was run here. It was a major draw in Zandvoort's history. And right now, Dries van Voor still crawls over the back of Engel. Everywhere he wants to go, the Mercedes covers the line. But on this lap, Van Voor is getting ever more committed. Tries to get up the inside. Is he going to get the power down and make a move? Couldn't quite do it. Again, Engel's car just wide enough to fend him off.
Thinking about it down into turn 11, but he has to go the long way. It's now the switchback. Can he get the better pace out of turn 12? It's a short run down to the Kumho Bock. And, well, we'll find out when they come back onto the straight.
Down to the hairpin then. This is now second and third because Pierre-Alexandre Jean has been caught by Rafaeli Martiello. So it was 2.8 seconds a few laps back. It's now half a second. This could well change before the end, given the pace of Martiello.
Indeed, and there's enough time for Martiello. He has clawed away at that second place, managed to get the Bentley almost into his grasp. But remember, the speed of the Bentley in the straight line is its trump card.
Whoa, that's Vanthoor off the road.
What's happened?
He got through and he dropped it, didn't he?
Yeah, but he got through up the inside and he couldn't turn the car, and that allowed Engel to get back underneath him. There was not a bad place, a difficult place to make a pass because you're limited on what you can do. It's a very tight turn if you're on the inside. It's a much easier turn if you're on the outside.
And now for second place, Martiello tries the outside line here, coming up through turn 10. Couldn't quite do it, but can he stay alongside? Because the road will come to him for the first part of the Hansen spot. Here they come, but look, the Bentley's got the grunt, but on the brakes, Martiello goes through. Change for second, good move.
Yes, worked it out well, maintained his momentum, which is the key for Martiello. Got ahead of the Bentley, almost lost it because the straight line performance of the Bentley now has pulled a second and a bit before they even get onto the straight, and that is consolidation, second place, Rafaeli Martiello. What do you expect of the Italian?
Well, fair point. I mean, he's released, he's away. Straight off, he manages to gap the Bentley to the tune of 0.6 of a second. You can't do anything surely about the leader because we have only got 7 minutes to go and he's 16 seconds back. But Rafaeli Martiello now presses on, heads up towards the turn 2 wriggle through the Finkelhack. Now, what about our 5th and 6th Mercedes fight? Let's go back to that for a second. It is still Konstantin Terashenko keeping at bay Oscar Turco here. But a lot's been going on in this race, and this has been one of the best battles all the way through.
Yes, I mean, it's a battle that's great to watch, but it's frustrating to be a part of because if you're attacking, you know that you're restricted in where you can do it, particularly against a similar model of car. Likewise, if you're defending, you've got to be aware that all the advantages you've got with your Mercedes-AMG GT3, likewise, so has Terashenko.
6 more minutes are on the clock, flying laps. About a minute and a half, just over, minute 35. There's Turco again, breaks late, gets onto the back of Terashenko. Inexperienced GT3 racer is Konstantin Terashenko, so he's doing a good job here, hanging on to position. The Russian driver with Oscar Turco tucked up behind. The Colombian looks for a way by.
Trying to make the undercut as they come out of turn 10. So he gets alongside now. It's a drag race all the way down to turn 11. Turco is on the wrong side. He's trying to force Konstantin Terashenko now forces him into an error. Smart racing by that, just forced the mistake down the inside. Terashenko got on the brakes too late and overran the corner. Now that's control from the cockpit and pressure, reaction from the cockpit, working out which way round it is.
A certain amount of confidence as well from Turco, knowing that the road would come to him if he pressured Terashenko into that mistake. So finally, he's got number 7 Mercedes back ahead. Of course, while they've been squabbling like that, look what's happened behind. There, you can see, is Maro Engel and Dries Vanthoor, who have closed. Now, this is what happened to Vanthoor. John, he just got his nose ahead.
I'm just looking at it again. Well, there was a light contact. He got his nose ahead. In fact, I thought it was the other way around. I thought maybe the Audi had been in the inside, but it wasn't. Maro Engel got himself up, and then I think there may have been a very light contact between the Audi and the Mercedes. You know, you're racing for position at that part of the racetrack. It's difficult for both drivers to ensure that there wouldn't be the lightest of contacts.
We've lost the tubular Aston Martin from the race. We saw it spin. It's retired with damage. 4 minutes on the clock. It's been an hour that's gone by very, very quickly for my money. As there is Oscar Turco proving the point now that having been released from behind Terashenko, he's got the pace to get away. As again, Vanthoor gets up the inside of Engel. There's a bit of contact between the two.
A little bit of return of the compliment from Dries Vanthoor. Got the left rear corner, slightly destabilised the Mercedes, but it didn't really pay any dividends or benefits. And of course, there's always a danger when you do a manoeuvre like that. You get slightly that bodywork rub, you can just nick the sidewall of your Pirelli tyre or that of the car you're involved with.
Kind of what we saw, wasn't it, from Albert Costa good few laps back. What have we got left in the race? 3.5 minutes, 2 more laps. And who is the fastest now at turn 13? It is Marcus Finkelhack from Albert Costa, from Christopher Mies. Chris Froggatt, brave, 4th. Mauro Engel, brave as well. He's 5th in the speeds at turn 13 on that Race Vision powered by AWS graphic. Turn 13 is the Kumho box, in case you were wondering. So 3 minutes of the race to go. Still battles to be resolved, but catch your breath for a moment. Who's been the star driver, John, for you? Who's been the standout?
Are you talking about an entertainment value, or which? Because there's been so many different battles going on. You might say that Dries van Thor has been combative. Fred Vervies behind, always one of my favourites. And if he catches up to the tail of Dries van Thor, which he's quite capable of doing with just over 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go, he could be my favourite.
But you've got to give a hat tip to Alex Fontana and Ricardo Feller out front, heading for a maiden win, seemingly, as Van Thor just can't find the width of the road to get the Audi alongside Engel. Try as he might.
Yeah, but where is Vervies? That cost Dries van Thor a little bit of time. There is Fred Vervies, the third of these 3 cars. So it looks like Dries van Thor has basically run out of options. What can I do? And now he's got to think about the 1 car behind him. Is he going to become a part of this battle?
Well, he's applied the pressure. There's even been contacts, and none of it's worked to get him up past, apart from for a couple of seconds, and then he fell off the road. So it's been a tough ask, this, having qualified badly. Over the timing line goes this battle pack now, which is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. And there is time for 1 more lap at the end of this, as again, look, Van Thor tries to get the drive out of the Tarzan hairpin, but the Mercedes
Restart
has
of
more
full
rust.
course yellow procedure of car 25 under investigation.
That's Christopher Hauser, full course yellow procedure. Hauser is 12th behind this gaggle of cars. 1 more lap at the end of this, John.
It's going to be, I suspect, status quo, because I'm not sure that Dries van Thor has got much left, if anything at all, to deal with Mauro Engel, and I don't think really Fred Vervies, as much as I would love to see him get on the tail of the white Audi directly ahead of him, can do much about that either. But as 4th, 5th, 6th all begin to concertina, there's still this lap to finish and the final lap of the race. Anything could happen with these 4, 5 cars.
Could indeed, as they run then now nose to tail. As I say, 1 more lap at the end of this. Engel knows exactly how to defend, and of course he's also closing onto Terashenko, but this, for the last time, showing you how far up the road the car is the leader. Alex Fontana for Emil Frey Racing through the Tarzan hairpin. The Ferrari behind is the many, many laps down, rejoined Rinaldi car, now with David Perel at the wheel of it, but a mega effort this by Ricardo Feller and now Alex Fontana.
I mean, they've done a brilliant job, but they've had the easiest job of the day, because they've never really had a challenge, or have never been in a position where they've been affected by slower cars around them. True. So they've driven wheel-perfect drives all the way through. Look at this battle, 4 cars. Final lap. Any possibility of any change? Love to see it. Would be a fantastic finish to this 1-hour race at Zandvoort.
So you've got 4 of the stars of the championship, 4 of the stars of GT racing. Have a look at their speeds through this next corner, the Hugenholtz box. Hauser, Martiello, Gounon, Engelhardt, Engel, they are the brave drivers. Christopher Hauser way back, of course, in 12th place, but for the last time they can, Konstantin Terashenko fend off Mauro Engel. That gap has been coming down and down and down, lap after lap after lap. Engel bringing this freight train with him. And is he going to be able to challenge? Well, not at Skyflock, he's not, because they come out of the right-hander down towards the Masters curve now. The gap soon disappeared, but the checkered flag is being made ready for Alex Fontana then, who is about to accelerate his way up through Kumho into the line dike, banked curve, the checkered flag at the ready. It's going to be a 3rd different winner of the season, the 1st Lamborghini win for Emil Frey Racing, and a maiden victory for Alex Fontana and Ricardo Feller after a great drive, fantastic performance, utterly dominant. And then you wait for 2nd place. There, Rafaeli Martiello comes through in the car that he shared with Timo Boguslavski. 3rd, really good effort, Ulysse de Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean. And then it's going to be 4th, Roichi Tomita, 5th, Oscar Tunko. And here's the battle for 6th place. John, it doesn't change in the end, but not for the want of trying.
No, all 4 drivers were on their toes for this final 10 minutes of this race. but a great drive all the way through by Alex Fontana, particularly Martiello Rafaeli. He got that gap between first to second to just under 10 seconds, so he was on him all the way through his driving stint.
Oscar Trinko is under investigation for a yellow flag procedure, possible infringement. In Pro-Am, Barwell is set for a win because here is Enrique Chavez then in the car shared with Miguel Ramos up towards the Kumho Bocht. And bear in mind as well that Alex Fontana and Ricardo Feller's Lamborghini wins the Silver Cup as well as winning outright. So up to the checkered flag now comes Enrique Chavez. There's the flag. More silverware for a very happy Barwell team that cheers home the car. You can see them leaning through the gap in the fence, but for Ricardo Feller, for Alex Fontana, maybe pre-qualifying you wouldn't have tipped them, but pole position by Ricardo Feller and just dominant, never headed, not a wheel wrong.
All the good work was done in the opening stint by Ricardo Feller to get the advantage of just under 6 seconds and a good turnaround in their pit stop, but the key was getting Alex Fontana into the car and in relatively clear air where he could then just focus on his job of driving and not have to get engaged in a battle with somebody either he was challenging or from behind.
So the winning car will in a moment make its way down to the pit lane into the Parc Fermé conditions, so nobody can touch it. Then the technical team make sure that it complies with the regulations. And the stewards have got a few things still to look at. One or two of the teams also offering suggestions. So through the winner's arch into P1 comes the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. And can't praise that drive enough. I mean, as we've said, nothing went wrong. Yes, it was relatively easy with the battles going on behind, but there wasn't a mistake, there wasn't any stress, the pit stop was decent, it had every box ticked.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you look for when you enter a race. Certainly when you start the race, you want to get that clear air wherever possible.
So provisionally, the results look like this. A win for Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana, ahead of Timo Boguslavski and Rafaeli Martiello. Then Ulysse de Pau and Pierre-Alexandre Jean on the podium for the first time. Fourth, Frank Bird and Oichi Tomita. Youssef Ohaka and Oscar Tunko fifth, and Jim Pla, Konstantin Terashenko taking sixth position. Remember, the top two cars winning their respective classes. 18th overall is your Pro-Am winner because Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos winning in Pro-Am ahead of Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini, then Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Bowman. Well, the celebrations have already started, I think, at Emil Frey Racing. Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana are very happy indeed, and they're ready to have a word with them. Down in the pit lane is Gemma Scott.
Ricardo, Alex, fantastic drive. You really set that up from the start there, Ricardo. Yesterday in qualifying, through the start today, fantastic.
Yeah, so far a perfect weekend. Can't get any better. Yeah, it's amazing. The car is a weapon, thanks to the boys. Yeah, it's big fun.
Congratulations, well done. And Alex, they're pushing really hard right to the end, despite the guys behind you having plenty of battles amongst themselves.
Yeah, for sure. I had an easier job than Ricardo because he built a really nice gap for me. And the car, as he said, it was mega. He did a fantastic job from the start. We knew that it was key in a sprint race to have a very good start from the beginning. He managed to pull the gap because he knew he had the pace to do it. And then I just managed until the end.
Fantastic result. Well done, guys. And come with us if I take Guy, my cameraman, with me over to get our second place, guys. We just grab Martiello and Boguslavski over this way before they run off, if we can. Oh, dropping things. But boys, Rafael, Timo, fantastic result there. Timo really pushing right to the end.
Yeah, right. So it was somebody in front of me pushed the brake on start, but yeah, I lost I think 1 or 2 positions. But the car feels good at this track. So yeah, amazing result. Thanks to the team and to Lello. So yeah, we did a great job and great points for championship, I think. Yeah.
Well done, Timo and Rafaeli. The green hair definitely was go faster hair.
Normally I'm always quick, so luckily it's not my hair, but yeah, it was fun. I mean, the car was great. I had quite a nice move, so I think it was a nice points for overall and sprint championship.
Congratulations, a great drive from both of you. Well done.
So is the second place combination. Let's have a look at the highlights of that race. You heard Tony Boguslavski talk about a car ahead of him braking at the start, which slowed him, and there's more evidence of it in that as the cars pounded over the line. But it was the start of the race that really set it up. A great first couple of corners by Riccardo Fella, leaving everybody else either on the wrong line or squabbling behind him, and he just drove away. The gap was building even by the end of the first lap. This is how Boguslavski saw the start. Look, there you do see the car ahead of him have to hit the brakes. That was the Konstantin Terashenko Mercedes, so that was why Boguslavski was delayed and fell back over the opening few laps of the race. But Rafaeli Martiello bringing the car back into contention in a really crowded house around the first couple of corners. This is how we lost number 108 Bentley in the early part of the race. It fell down the order, remember. Nelson Pancitici running out of road, Compact going nicely, but then he got a hit and shoulder that put him up the curb in the Silver Cup Mercedes, and a change for the lead in Pro Am. Brilliant move that by Miguel Ramos right round the outside as Charles Weerts made his move to the inside of the Tarzan hairpin just before the pit window opened, and it was a good stop by the ACA ASP squad that managed to move 88 up ahead of the Top Sport WRT Mercedes. And then we had this moment on his outlap from Engel. Very uncharacteristic spin and a very costly spin. Rick Brokers brought the furniture with him as he came into the pit lane, and the damage done to the Mad Panda Mercedes was enough to put that out of the race. Rafaeli Martiello then on his toes. He got past Reichi Tomita's Audi, and this battle between Engel and Christopher Mies left Christopher Mies off the circuit, and as the Audi danced its way back to the tarmac, so it fell down the order. A contact between him and Albert Costa in the second stint put the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini out of the race with a shredded tyre. Martiello continuing to advance up the order from third to second at the Hans Ernst Vogt, as round the outside of Engel went Dries Van Voor, brushed between them. The Audi ran out of road and dropped back behind the Mercedes as a maiden victory in the championship for Riccardo Fella and Alex Fontana. The real talking point of the day. Great effort by the Lamborghini drivers here at Zandvoort. Right, the podiums are next. 3 of them we have for the Silvers, the Pro-Ams, and of course overall. Top 3 in each. The drivers will be rounded up in a moment and brought to the podium, but the, as I say, main talking point is that great drive by Alex Fontana and Riccardo Fella, whose first stint, very, very impressive indeed. Riccardo Fella, relatively inexperienced, and he doesn't have the glittering CV that some of the other drivers do, but you can't really fault the performance they put in, John. It was, as we've been saying, just inch perfect all the way through.
Yes, I mean, they explained it in the interviews with Gemma that they got the advantage into turn 1, and once Riccardo Fella had that advantage, he was able to just pull away bit by bit by bit, and all the squabbling that was going on behind only gave him the advantage.
Well, there are third place drivers, Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw. Then for second place, this is the overall, the silver podium, I should say, is Timo Boguslavski and Rafaeli Martiello. And then up for the top step, the overall winners, there you have Riccardo Fella and Alex Fontana. A great effort for the 2 of them, and of course for Emil Frey Racing. So the national anthem now plays for the winning team. Emil Frey Racing victorious here at Zandvoort. So Riccardo Fella, Alex Fontana take the top step. They already have the trophies, the checks for the season-long entrance. In other words, those that do sprint and endurance. All smiles, trophies in the air. A first win in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. Alex Fontana and Riccardo Fella, the winners at Zandvoort. So as they make their way from the podium, the overall podium, let's have a quick look at what that does to the championship. Well, Dries Van Voor and Charles Weerts now just 1 clear of Rafaeli Martiello, with Riccardo Fella and then Alex Fontana next. If you're wondering why they're on a different score, it's because they shared different cars at Magny-Cours. Earl Bamber, Mathieu Jaminet and Matt Campbell come next. Bearing in mind this takes into account the endurance and sprint races, so it's a slightly inflated score for 1 or 2, given that the last endurance round was the extra point scoring event, because it was a 6-hour race, not the normal 3. That's 1 point between Zandvoort and Weert to Martiello going into tomorrow's equivalent race, another 1 hour from a standalone qualifying session tomorrow morning. So to the silvers, there for third place, Frank Bird and Roichiro Tomita, winner here last season, with Kelvin van der Linde, who's away on DTM duty this weekend. Second, stepping back to the podium, Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw. The Bentley boys for CMR, Classic Modern Racing. And they don't know where to put everything. They've got so much now. Trophies, checks, sets of tires from Pirelli. And then the silver winners also back to the podium, because the outright winners take the class honours as well. Ricardo Feller, along with Alex Fontana and Emil Frey Racing's representative. It's another victory. It's another trip to the podium. So there we have then the silver winners making the celebrations on the podium. Silver Cup honours to Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana. So the drivers then with silverware in hand make their way from the podium. We've got the Pro-Am still to come. Let's have a look at what's going on in the Silver Cup. Again, taking into account endurance as well as sprint. Alex Fontana now well clear ahead of Konstantin Terashenko. Ricardo Feller third from Rolfin Eichen, then Simon Gachet and Thomas Drouet. Again, some of these names you'll see because they are doing the Endurance Cup and have scored well. Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw now sixth, ahead of Stuart Hall, James Poole and Ben Goethe, who is here. So too Roichiro Tomita, because along with Frank Bird next, they're doing the sprint. Arthur Rougier did do the sprint races at Magny-Cours, but he's not here. Dennis Marshall didn't do Magny-Cours, but has done the endurance and is here. So he scores again through the Sprint Cup element of the championship. So the Silver Cup, currently the domain of Alex Fontana, with a lot to celebrate right now, with a Silver Cup race win and an outright race win as well. So our third podium, the drivers now step forward with their Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann making their way to third place from Pro-Am. Second, Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini. Louis Machiels had that class lead early on, remember, until he was passed round the outside of the Tarzan hairpin by an inspired Miguel Ramos, and also there Enrique Chavez make their way onto the podium for Barwell Motorsport. Celebrations for the British team with the Portuguese drivers then to get underway. Bronze graded Miguel Ramos, who has been a very, very active racer for the last 20 years or so, racing in the International GT Championship, in the SRO Championships, in Italian, in Spanish events, being a GT or touring car. Very, very experienced and a very capable, very competent bronze driver, kind of bronze plus, really. Let's have a look at what's going on in Pro-Am if you take endurance and sprint together. Johnny Adam and Alexander West ahead of Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez, who in turn are just a point up on Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. Andrea Bertolini and Louis Machiels didn't score at Paul Ricard in the endurance race, so they're next ahead of Chris Goodwin. Then it's Phil Keane and Hiroshi Hamaguchi who only do endurance. Next comes Eddie Cheever and Chris Froggatt, with Jonathan Hui again doing endurance only, and Adrian Amstutz next in points order. Adrian Amstutz having to miss Paul Ricard because of a dirt bike injury that he sustained. So the third sprint race of the season concluded, and much to discuss, especially if you're at Emil Frey Racing, because a race win out of one car and damage for another. Albert Costa's good effort coming to nothing with the damage that was done to that tyre and putting the Lamborghini off the road. So a bittersweet race, but a good result, as I say, for number 14, maiden victory. Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana, perhaps surprise winners of that if you just looked at the result sheet in isolation, but a very, very good effort done by them indeed. So tomorrow's race is going to be from, again, a standalone qualifying session. So qualify well, your grid position better. You've seen the importance of qualifying well and the troubles of overtaking in that race, because it's not the easiest place in which to find the room. But we'll see what tomorrow brings, because it will be different drivers doing qualifying duties. But there's much to look forward to for race number 2. So for now, celebration time for Emil Frey Racing and for Barwell as class winners. and plus, of course, ACA ASP, because they were the first of the Pro Cup cars home. But it is a race win at Zandvoort for Alex Fontana and Ricardo Feller. Join us for more action tomorrow. From Gemma Scott in the pits, from John Watson, from David Addison, goodbye for now.